Hey everybody, my name is Kristin. I'm an FSI here at CFB Edmonton. It's a hot day in Edmonton. We're at 30 degrees right now. I'm going to give everybody a little bit longer to get set up into the class. Today is a full body strength session. So all of these exercises can be done with either a barbell, kettlebell, dumbbell. If you kind of have makeshift weights at home, of either a backpacker, something like that, all of these exercises can be done with whatever equipment that you have. If you're saving this workout maybe for later, you want to try it out a little bit later in the week, I'm going to give you a couple technique cues and all that kind of stuff that you can use a little bit later in your training sessions. They may or may not have been things that you've heard or done before, but it's always a nice review as we're getting back into a routine of maybe going to the gym, lifting weights if a gym near you is opening back up. Don't forget to reach out to your PSP if you're not too sure where to start. In a strength and conditioning program, we're always here and more than willing to help. All right, so that takes us right to 1400 on the nose. So if you're just joining us, hey everybody, my name is Kristin. I'm a fitness and sports instructor here at CFB Edmonton. Today I'm going to be taking you through a full body strength class. For this class, if you have dumbbells, kettlebells, a barbell, or any sort of makeshift weights at home, whether it be a weighted backpack or something like that, you can use whatever you have for this workout. If you're just kind of saving this workout in your back pocket for maybe a later date, that's 110% fine too. I'm going to go over some technique cues that maybe you can implement into your training at a later date. Make sure that you have water for today and obviously some tunes. If you feel like getting a little bit more jazzy, I'm not going to be playing any music just for the sake of you being able to hear me and for me being able to take you through this class. So of course we got to do the little disclaimer before we get started. So in response to COVID-19, PSP is offering virtual fitness to Canadian Armed Forces members by using social media platforms. The virtual fitness classes tailored to Canadian Armed Forces personnel become accessible to all. Participants who are not Canadian Armed Forces members recognize and acknowledge that their age, health status, and physical fitness level are unknown, and it is entirely up to each individual to assess their ability to participate in this class. Since it is preferable to consult your physician before beginning any exercise program, we invite all participants who are not Canadian Armed Forces members to consult the Get Active questionnaire of the Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology. The link is going to be down below in the comments, and its reference document. If you experience any pain or difficulty during the exercises presented in this video, it is recommended that you stop and consult a healthcare provider. If any CAF member sustained an injury during this video, please remember to fill out a CF98. Okay, all right, so now that we got all of that out of the way, once again, today is a full body strength class. So we're gonna be hitting 4 of our major muscle groups today. We're going to go over a couple technique cues. So if you haven't really been working out, over the extent of quarantine or through COVID or whatever it may be, just a couple technique cues to kind of get you back into the rhythm, really focusing on your form so we come back, bigger, faster, stronger. So let's get right into it. We're going to get right into a full body warm-up, and then we're going to hit up our workout. So the first warm-up exercise that we're going to do is called our world's greatest stretch. So we're going to get down into that nice deep lunge. Both hands are on the inside of the front foot. We're going to take our inside hand and we're going to rotate it in towards the front leg and then back down. Now we're just going to pivot a little bit better. So rotating in towards the front leg and back down. We're going to do 5 on each side. If you need a little bit more, bend the inside elbow. Try and take it down to the instep of your foot and then rotate inwards and back down. So once you're done your 5, you're going to switch over to your other side, really opening up those hips. If you need to drop the back knee, that's 110% okay. Try and keep the hip and the knee extended during this exercise. So going into 5, world's greatest stretch. On the other side, bending that elbow and trying to take it down to the instep of the foot if you need a little bit more of a challenge. So once you're done your 5, we're going to go into a nice tall plank. Feet are nice and wide, hips are nice and square to the ground. We're So one hand to opposite shoulder, try and get that 1 to 2 second static balance and back down. Over to the opposite shoulder, 1 to 2 second static balance and down. We're going to go back and forth until we've done 5 reps on each side, 10 all together. Now, as you're doing this, try not to let your hips sway side to side. Keep them nice and square towards the ground. So that means that you have to make a wider stance with your feet and do so. All right, next we're going to go into our 90-90 alternating shin box. So to set up, your front leg is going to be at 90 degrees and your back leg is going to be at 90 degrees. Making sure that your knee of the back leg and the heel of the front foot are not smushed together, that you have some space in between them to allow your hips some room to move. So now we're going to rotate our torso so our shoulders are a length over top of our tibia or over our lower leg. You want to try and sit as evenly as you can during this exercise. So from here, what we're going to do, staying nice and long through the core, nice and neutral. We're going to take our shoulders, we're going to hinge over top of that tibia. We're going to sit back. Then we're going to externally rotate the back leg, internally rotate the front leg in order for us to alternate over to the other side. Now, I don't want to see any cheating and hands, go back like this, or we're just switching sides like that. This is a active mobility exercise. So once you get over to the other side, press that front knee down into the ground, back knee down into the ground, hinge over top of that front leg and back, and then we're kind of windshield wiping over towards the other side. So we're going to do 3 on each side, 6 all together. Windshield wiping over to the other side. Try not to use your hands the best that you can. And 1 more on each side. You might feel that this internally rotated position on the back leg is slightly uncomfortable. That might mean that you got a little bit of tight hip going on. And last one, alternating back over to the other side. All right, next we're going to hit up a low plank position. In our low plank position, we're going to have our feet once again nice and wide, glutes and squeeze, core is tight. We're going to reach one arm forward and down, other arm forward and down. Lift one leg down, other leg and down. So arm, leg is 1, and we have 3 rounds altogether. So 2 more rounds, feet are nice and wide, arm, leg, 1 more round, arm, leg, and leg. Next, we're going to go over to our side, and we're going to take a side plank position. So from here, our shoulders, our hips, and our ankles are all going to be aligned so the knees are bent and they are slightly in front of our body. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to press our bottom knee down into the ground. We're going to lift up through the hip into a clamshell. And then we're going to lower back down. So the top leg opens up as well. So making sure elbow is stacked right underneath the shoulder, lifting through the core, pressing that bottom knee down into the ground, holding for about 3 to 4 seconds, and then back down. So you should feel all the work in the bottom hip. If you happen to have mini bands or any sort of band at home, you can put it around above your knee, and you can open up into that band, which will get the top glute working as well. So we're going to do 8 all together. I'm going to do 4 on this side just because I'm chatting and I'm giving cues and reminders so that we get through our warm-up and we can get right into our workout. So once again, shoulders, hips, and ankles all aligned. Knees are slightly in front of the body. Elbows directly underneath the shoulder. Pushing that bottom knee down into the ground, lifting and back down. Lifting push that bottom knee down into the ground. Feel the side of the glute really get fired up on this exercise. You don't need any sort of resistance in order to really feel this exercise. All right, so once we're done our feet, we're going to go into a glute bridge. So for our glute bridge, we're going to be lying on our back. Hips and knees are going to be bent. Feet are flat on the floor. So now for your glute bridge, if you're the type of individual when you do a glute bridge, you feel it maybe more in your hamstring and not necessarily a lot in your glute. I'm going to give you a little cue to help you with that, to really help you engage your glutes a little bit more. So when you're doing a glute bridge, and you maybe feel it more in your hamstring than you do in your glute, I want you to do this. Think that you have two pieces of paper underneath your feet. And you're trying to push those two pieces of paper away from you as you're lifting up your hips. So you're going to be pressing your big toe down into the ground. What that's going to do is that is going to slightly activate the quads, which is going to deactivate the hamstring because they are antagonist muscles. They do the opposite action. So if our quads are active, then our hamstrings have to relax. Our glute is our only other muscle that does hip extension. So therefore, if our hamstrings are turned off by pressing, our big toe down into the ground and thinking of pushing those pieces of paper away from us, we're going to get a little bit more glute engagement. Now make sure your heels still stay down on the ground as you're doing this glute bridge. I just want you to think about pressing the big toe down into the ground and kind of statically pushing two pieces of paper away. So now that I've given you that little bit of a cue, let's get into our glute bridges. We're going to do 10 all together with a 2 to 3 second hold at the top. So pressing that big toe down into the ground, lifting up those hips, holding for 2 to 3 seconds, and back down. Lifting, holding for 2 to 3, and back down. Press that big toe down. Think of pushing those two pieces of paper away from you. Alright, once we're done our 10, we're going to flip over into a prone position, so on our stomach. So I'm just going to demonstrate this just because the floor is black, my outfit's black. I feel like maybe you can't see me as well as I thought because everything's kind of blending in. So I'm going to demonstrate this exercise just facing you, and then you're going to mimic me lying on the ground. So we're going to be in a face down position on the ground. I like to call these prone snow angels. So in laying on the ground, what you're going to do is you're going to lift your chest slightly up off the ground, and you're going to have your arms above your head like so. From here, you almost want to think about trying to get your thumbs as close together as you can. So from here, what you're going to do in depressing those shoulder blades and squeezing them, you're going to move your hands out to the side, and as soon as you get to that 90-degree angle, you're going to flip your palms so they're facing the ceiling, and then you're going to squeeze your thumbs back and down and together. So we're trying to squeeze those shoulder blades as close together as we can, almost like you're being arrested type thing. So once you get that good squeeze, we're going to reverse it back the other way. So palms are still facing the ceiling. Once we get to that 90-degree angle out to the side, we flip palms down so they're facing the ground, and then we're coming all the way back up so that our thumbs are going to be touching. We're going to go through 6 repetitions of this. 6 repetitions. So in that prone position, chest is lifted. Squeeze those glutes nice and tight. Pretend like you have the last penny in the world in between your butt cheeks. You got to keep it there. So arms out in front. We lift them up off the ground, trying to get our thumbs as close together as we can. Taking our arms out to 90 degrees. Flipping palms up towards the ceiling. And then pulling those thumbs back and down. Pulling those shoulder blades back and down. And getting a nice squeeze. And then reversing it all the way back to the top. So we can have 6 repetitions of these. and 6. Perfect. All right, so once you're done your 6, we're going to come to a tall standing position. We're going to go into our inchworm. So, taking a tall standing position, nice big inhale in, push those hips back, hinging forward, hands go down to the ground. Try to keep your knees as straight as you can, not locked out. You always want to have a nice soft bend in the knees, be nice to your joints and leave for a long time. Then you're going to try and keep your hands down to the ground, still trying to keep that soft bend in your knees. We're going to walk our hands out. So wrists are directed underneath the shoulders, push up, and then we're walking our hands back towards our feet. Once again, trying to keep that nice soft bend in our knees and trying not to let our knees bend too much. So we have 6 inchworms all together. Really enjoy that hamstring stretch if you feel a nice one. Really actively pushing back through those palms as we walk our hands back. Last one here. All right, so next we're going to go into our sumo squat to stand. So what that's going to look like is we're going to take a stance just wider than shoulder width apart. From here, we're going to push our hips back like a Romanian deadlift. You should feel a nice stretch in the hamstring, maybe a little bit down into the calf. There's a nice slight bend in the knees. From here, you're going to take your hands either to your shins, your ankles, the tops of your feet. From here, you're going to push your knees to the outsides of your arms and sit into that nice squat. From here, thumbs go back, then we push through the heels and stand. So really try and separate that deep squat position. Thumbs go back, then we push through the heels and stand. I usually see it very synonymous, bringing the arms up as an individual is rising up out of their deep squat. Try and really break it down. So pushing the hips back, hands down to the ankles, push those knees out. Take a couple seconds in this nice deep squat if you need to. Thumbs go back, push through the heels and stand. So we have 6 all together. 6 all together at your own tempo. If you need a little bit more time in the bottom of your squat, maybe you want to kind of scour, shift your weight back and forth. That's totally fine. Making sure we come to full extension at the top, knees and hips. One more. Woo! Alrighty, okay, there is our warm-up. Grab a quick sip of water if you need to. I know I'm going to. It is hot in this gym today. It's hot in Edmonton. We're not used to this. It's good though. That extra little sweat never hurt nobody. All right, so for our workout, we have 3 blocks that we're going to do. In each block, we have 2 exercises to complete, and they're going to be superset, which means that we're doing them back to back with no rest in between. Once we complete 1 set of each exercise, I'm going to give you a 1:30 rest before we get into the second set. Okay? So the first exercise that we have is a Paw Squat. So now if you have a dumbbell, barbell, kettlebell, you can do many different variations of this exercise. But the takeaway from this exercise is that we are going to be pausing in our bottom range of motion of our squat for 3 seconds. Okay? So now a Paw Squat is a really good exercise to help build strength as it diminishes our stretch reflex. Now, if you're not familiar with what your stretch reflex is, I'll give you a little explanation. So when a muscle is stretched, just through physiology, its automatic reaction is it automatically wants to come back together. So a lot of the time, individuals will be very bouncy in their squat. When you're more bouncy like that, you're more or less just using your body's physiological reactions more than what you're actually using your core strength system. So different studies show different things, but anywhere from a 2-second pause plus has shown to diminish or deactivate that stretch reflex. So your body has to dig a little bit deeper. We have to tap into more of that core strength system in order to assist ourselves to get out of that bottom range of motion. It also helps build supportive strength in our hips and our core, especially in our bottom range of motion where we're going to be holding that pause, which typically in most individuals is the weakest position in their squat as an entirety. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. So I'm going to do mine with a dumbbell. I'm going to do it as a goblet squat. You can do this as a back squat, a front squat, whatever type of squat you want to do. So from here, what it's going to look like is we're going to go down into that nice deep squat. We're going to hold for 1, 2, 3, and then drive up out of that bottom range of motion for a squat. So now in order to be strong in our squat, we have to make sure that our hips and our shoulders come up out of our squat at the exact same rate, okay? Because if they don't, and we're in our bottom range of motion, and our hips start to come first, then our center of gravity is transferred forward, and you can see that. As soon as I start to lift my hips, my shoulders start to go forward. Once that happens, you lose a lot of your power in coming out of your bottom range of motion of your squat. So if you have a mirror at home or a mirror in your gym, just make sure that you're paying attention to that little technique cue and making sure that your hips and your shoulders are coming up at the same rate. So we're going to do a nice 3-second pause in our bottom range of motion, and we're going for 8 reps here. So whenever you're ready, you're going to grab your weight, whatever it may be. I'm going to count those 3 seconds because it's not 1, 2, 3. It's not a fast 3. It's 1, 2, 3, a nice full 3 seconds. So here we go, driving those knees up, sitting into our squat for 3, 2, 1, and drive up, right back down. Holding for 1, 2, 3, 2. Back down, 1, 2, 3, 3. Back down, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 5. Hold 1, 2, 3, 6. 2 more. Hold 1, 2, 3, 7. Last one. Hold 1, 2, 3, and 8. Very nice. Nice hold. So make sure when you're in your bottom range of motion that we're not relaxing. Our hips are still engaged, our core is still engaged. It's a very active position. All right, exercise number 2 in this block that we're doing is called a Z press. Now, I have dumbbells here, which I'm going to use. You can use kettlebells, you can use a weighted backpack, you can use a barbell, whatever you may have. So now a Z press is done in a seated position. So in this position, you are going to take your dumbbells and we're going to perform an overhead press. So now the reason for doing this seated is when someone maybe lacks some range of motion in their shoulder, or perhaps they have tight lats, so they can't quite get that fully overhead extended position. What individuals tend to do if they can't get that, maybe they can only get to there, they push their hips forward to almost compensate for that range of motion that they don't have in the shoulder. So now by sitting on the ground, we take the hips out of the equation completely. So in doing the Z press, you have to make sure the cues I'm going to give you is that your rib cage stays down. So I don't want the rib cage flared up towards the ceiling. I want the rib cage down. Now by thinking of that cue in depressing the rib cage or keeping it down, you should feel a slight posterior tilt of the tailbone. So almost like how a dog gets scared and tucks their tail in between their legs. That's more or less exactly what you should feel. So you should feel the upper part of your core and the lower part of your core with that one cue in keeping the rib cage down, okay? So we take the hips out of the equation, so we're not allowed to compensate through them. So we're working on overhead stability and overhead strength here. So taking our dumbbells up to the shoulders, making sure that rib cage stays down. We're going to press and back down. Going for 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, last one, and 8. Very nice. Don't forget to breathe. When you do those, don't hold your breath the entire time. All right, I'll give you a quick 1-minute rest. Grab some water. I did a little bit more talking, so we didn't quite do them as back-to-back as I thought. But we had to get those little technique cues in. All right, we got about another 40 seconds until we go back into our Paw Squat. Now, if you're feeling that maybe the 3 seconds isn't challenging, try 4, okay? Try and go for that extra second in your bottom range of motion, okay? Also, when we set up for our squat, you might get a bit of 30 here because I'm going to talk about one more thing. Make sure you think about your feet, okay? So, a lot of individuals don't think about their feet when they squat, but our feet are our base of foundation. So you can't build a house if you don't have a good base. So, in thinking about your feet, I want you to think about 3 specific points in the foot. The big toe, the little toe, and then the heel is your 3rd spot. So it's almost forming a triangle. When you set up for your squat, I want you to actively, mindfully think about those 3 places in your foot, okay? That way you're displacing the weight evenly amongst the foot, okay? From there, what I want you to think about doing is screwing your foot into the ground, okay? So now what I mean by that is when we have those 3 points of contact in our squat, I want you to think of externally rotating from the hips and screwing your feet down into the ground. So we're not letting our toes point more outwards. You know, we're not in a ballet class here. I want you to think of getting a nice solid base with your foot, get some grip, almost like our feet are like talons, and then externally rotate from the hips so that you feel your glutes activated before you even start your squat, okay? So our glutes are turned on, that means our pelvis is sitting a lot more level, which means we're gonna have better core engagement, okay? So it all starts from the ground up. So here we go. That was 2 minutes and 18 seconds, but a very important technique cue, okay? Especially if we're getting back to the gym and wanting to get back on those strength gains, okay? So back into our Paw Squat. Let's grab our weight, whatever it may be, get those 3 points of contact, screw your feet into the ground, and here we go. Push those hips back, sit down for 3, 2, 1, 1. And back down. 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 3, 2, 1, 6, 2 more, 3, 2, 1, 7, last one, 3, 2, 1, and 8. Woo! Oh man, that little pause, I tell you, changes the exercise completely. All right, here we go. Into our Z press. Grab your dumbbells, barbell, whatever it may be, and we're pressing overhead for 8. Into a press. And down. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. Very nice. Alrighty. Minute 30 of rest, and it's only going to be a minute 30 this time. I promise. Woo! Oh man. Alrighty, we've got one more set, and then we're switching it up. So make it your best set yet. Grab a sip of water, crank those tunes if you need to. All right, we have 1 more minute of rest. So hopefully that little cue I just gave you before this last set that we did, you actually felt a difference in your movement, okay? Maybe you felt a little bit stronger, a little bit more controlled, or you felt a little bit more solid in your movement as a whole. All right, we got another 40 seconds until we have our last set of our Paw Squats and our Z press. So like I said, these exercises can be done as a back squat. You can do a barbell overhead press, whatever suits your fancy. All right, 20 more seconds. Take that last sip of water, that last towel down. Maybe crank up the tunes 1 more notch higher on the volume. We got 10 seconds. And then we're going into our last set. All right, here we go. Pick up that weight. Last set of our Paw Squats. Here we go. Screw the feet into the ground. Glutes are nice and active. Drag those knees up. Hold for 3, 2, 1, 1. 3, 2, 1, 2. 3, 2, 1, 3. 3, 2, 1, 4. 3, 2, 1, 5, 3, 2, 1, 6, 2 more, 3, 2, 1, 7, last one, 3, 2, 1, and 8. Very nice, much better set. I'm assuming, I can't see, but I'm assuming it was a much better set. I'm hoping it was a better set. All right, last set of our Z press. Toss it up. Here we go, pressing for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Woo! All right, take your rest. Take your water. As we're switching it up. Switching it up. Woo! All right. That minute 30 rest felt just right. Alrighty, into our second block. So in our second block, the first exercise that we're going to do is a Romanian deadlift. Okay, so now once again, barbell, dumbbell, kettlebell, weighted backpack, whatever you have, 110% fine. Dog, child, you know, anything really works. So what it's going to look like is we're going to take our feet and they were going to be shoulder width apart. Toes are facing forward, slightly externally rotated if need be, okay? Don't try and overcorrect or force your body into a position that it's not comfortable with. So, for myself, my nice, neutral, natural position is with a slight bit of external rotation. If I try and overcorrect and force my toes to be facing forward, I don't know if you can see it or not, but my knees are internally rotated, okay? So now to try and move in this position is not an option for me in any way, shape, or form. So everybody's hips are built differently. You have to move with what your body's telling you, okay? So nice, neutral stance with feet externally rotated. You don't want to overcorrect because it'll put stress and strain on ligaments or muscles or tendons that are not used to it, and then you're going to start to give yourself some sort of an injury or perhaps re-aggravate a pre-existing injury. Okay, so make sure that your stance is nice and comfortable at shoulder width apart. Okay, so in that shoulder width apart stance, whether you're using barbell, so if you have barbell, our hands are going to be in a pronated position, so palms are going to be facing the thighs. If we have dumbbells, palms are going to be at the exact same place, okay? So from here, Romanian deadlift. A deadlift, from here we're going to initiate the movement with the hips. So once again, make sure we have that tripod in the foot, our feet are screwed into the ground, okay, our glutes are activated. From here, we're going to push back through the hips, letting those dumbbells or the barbell glide down the leg to about mid-shin, okay? So now, for a Romanian deadlift, our hips can stay a little bit higher than what they would typically in a conventional deadlift. So we're not doing a stiff-legged deadlift, where as you can see, my shoulders and my hips basically end up in one parallel line. For a Romanian deadlift, we have a little bit more slightly bent, and our shoulders are elevated a little bit higher than the hips, as opposed to a conventional deadlift where that angle is a little bit more drastic. Okay, so hopefully you can kind of see the differences in the hip and shoulder differences between those three deadlifts. Okay, also make sure that we are pushing back through the hips. Okay, I don't want to see any bending from the back, because from here our center of gravity gets taken too far away from us, and therefore we're putting more stress and strain on our low back and requiring more work through the core than what we need for this particular movement. Okay, so Romanian deadlift. The second one that we're going to do is a 3-point supported row. So over here I have my bench, so I'm going to take my dumbbell and I'm going to have 3 points of support. So my knee, my foot, and then obviously my hand is going to be on the bench. So, from here, pop quiz. What part of the body is a row initiated with? Give me a couple seconds, you're throwing out answers. Elbow, back, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what you're saying, okay? Maybe some of you are right, wrong, not too sure, but a row is initiated with the posterior aspect of the shoulder, okay? So, in order to properly set up for a row, we are going to make our first pull with the back part of the shoulder in order to set the shoulder blade, okay? So setting means putting the shoulder in the most optimal position to develop strength, okay? So we're taking that shoulder, we're retracting it and depressing it back down. So the part where a row is initiated from is the posterior aspect of the shoulder. Because if we initiate it with the elbow, and our elbow drives our movement, look at all this nasty internal rotation I'm getting in this shoulder here. This internal rotation is not going to make for a healthy, happy shoulder. Okay, so you need to set that shoulder blade, pull with the back part of the shoulder, and then the elbow finishes off the movement. Okay, so on your bench, box whatever you may have. We're going to do 8 rows. So tuck that shoulder blade back and down, and then the elbow finishes the row. Okay, so we have 8 repetitions of that exercise on each side. So 8 Romanian deadlifts, 8 single arm supported rows. Now, if you don't have a bench or anything like that, maybe you're doing all of your workouts from home, even better. It's just going to make it a little bit harder for you. Take a nice split stance, and you're going to be doing your rows unsupported. Okay, so you're going to require a little bit more core engagement for that as well. All right, so let's get into our Romanian deadlift for 8 reps. All right, so got your weight, set yourself up, pull those shoulder blades back, core is nice and tight, pushing those hips back, and pulling through for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, last one, and 8. Beautiful. Grab your weight to your bench. 8 single arm rows on each side. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Switch over to the other side. Bench over a little bit. Here we go. All right. Switching it over to the other side. 3-point stance. Here we go. 8 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Woo! All right. 1 minute and 30 seconds of rest. Grab your water. We have 2 more sets. 2 more sets. Whew. I got a good sweat going on in here. It's hot. Couldn't imagine doing this workout outside today. Way too warm. All right, we got 1 more minute. 1 more minute left. Woo! Hope everybody's staying happy and healthy. Wearing your mask where you need to. Keeping your distance where you need to. All right, 30 more seconds. I'm going to grab 1 more quick sip of water. Hopefully everybody's enjoying this workout so far. We're learning a couple things, maybe a couple technique things we haven't heard of before, maybe an analogy I've kind of spewed out that maybe just is kind of resonating with you a little bit more. All right, here we go. That's a minute 30 into our second set, into our deadlift. Here we go, push those hips back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, last one, and 8. Woo! Alrighty, back into our row. 8 reps. Make sure that supporting arm is not loosey-goosey, okay? We're not sinking our chest down into our supporting arm. We're pushing through that palm. The shoulder and the shoulder blade are both active. So you should feel your shoulder blade come around your rib cage, just a tad, just a tad. So we're kind of protracting it a little bit, okay? So get your stance. Sorry, a little extra rest there. And we're rolling for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Woo! Switching it over to the other side. Here we go. Rolling for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Woo! All right. We have a minute. A minute and 30 seconds of rest. Woo! 1 more set, and then we're gonna get into some core. Everybody's favorite. Alrighty. We're getting a good sweat. We're having a good workout on a Monday. Sometimes I'm not even too sure what day it is anymore. We got one more minute of rest. If you're looking for some other awesome workouts, make sure you go to our Facebook page, Edmonton Garrison Military Fitness and Sports, and we have tons of links on there to our YouTube page that has a bunch of videos of live stream classes that we recorded and posted over the months where, everybody was kind of staying home, so on and so forth. We were, in our basements and so on and so forth, doing videos, trying to help everybody, move a little bit during that time. So if you're looking for a couple more workouts, feel free to look back and do some. If you're looking for some mobility stuff, maybe you're feeling a little bit tight, my coworker Scott has done some awesome mobility videos, so I would highly suggest checking those out. All right, look at that. I can talk for a minute 30, easy peasy. Okay, here we go, last set. Romanian deadlift with our dumbbells. Here we go. Pushing the hips back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, last one, and 8. Woo. 1 and 1. There we go. Alrighty. Last set of rows. Remember, posterior part of the shoulder. Stop that shoulder blade. Developing nice strong shoulders. Here we go. Row in for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Woo! Alrighty, last side, last set before we're getting into our core exercises. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, last one, and 8. Woo! Alrighty. Minute 30, probably a little bit more, because I gotta explain. The last 2 exercises. Almost there. Holy man. That time goes by so fast. Alrighty. Last 2 exercises I'm gonna give you are both loaded, but they can also be done unloaded, which means without weight, okay? So just give me a quick second here. I'm just gonna tilt this down a little bit more. Sorry, I'm moving my screen on you. There we go, just so we have a little bit better of an angle. So these next 2 core exercises that I'm showing you, I'm going to be doing with a kettlebell. You can do them body weight if you so choose, or you can do them with a dumbbell or whatever you have, okay? So you've probably heard of a dead bug. You've probably done a dead bug. If you've done one of our classes, or perhaps if you've been to physio, you 110% know what a dead bug is, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to do a loaded dead bug today, aka we're going to be using some weight, okay? So I'm going to demonstrate a dead bug first and foremost for those of you who maybe are not sure what a dead bug is. So for a dead bug, we're going to take a supine position. Our hips and knees are going to be at 90-degree angles, and our arms are going to be up in the air. So now dead bugs can be done different ways. By lowering one leg at a time. You can lower one arm behind your head at a time. My personal favorite is lowering opposite arm and opposite leg and coming back together. Lowering other arm, opposite leg, coming back together. Now the aim for a dead bug is you want to make sure that your low back is staying pressed into the ground the entire time. We should not feel our low back arching up off of the ground. Okay, so that is the name of the game, is to keep that back nice and flat against the ground. So we're going to be doing this exercise. So we're going to be at a 90-degree angle like so. You're going to lower one leg as you lower a weight behind you. And then as you pull it over, you're going to come back into that 90-degree angle. You're going to lower the opposite foot and lower that weight, and then bring it back. So as you take this weight over top of your head, there's going to be that tendency for the rib cage to lift. Kind of fight that urge and make sure you're keeping that rib cage depressed. Only go as far until you start to feel your low back start to lift up off the ground, okay? So we're going to do a set of 6 here. We're going to do a set of 6, 3 on each side. So from here, lowering one leg, making sure we're doing it in a nice controlled tempo, and back. Lowering, keeping that low back press down, and back. 3, 4, 5, last one, and 6. Very nice. All right, so now we are going to pair that with a loaded kettlebell range, okay? So what it's going to look like is you're going to take your kettlebell or your weight, whatever you have, your feet are going to be extended right up in the air. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take your kettlebell and you are going to reach it up towards your toes and back down. Reach up towards the toes and back down. So now when none of our limbs are touching the ground, it really puts more of an emphasis on the core in being our primary mover. Okay, so there's a lot of work into here. So make sure once again, we depress that rib cage and really think about reaching that kettlebell high. Try to keep the neck nice and relaxed because we tend to strain our neck when we're maybe reaching for something that we can't quite get. Okay, once again, doing control repetitions. We want to have nice control through these exercises. Okay, so once again, legs are straight up and reaching for those toes, going for another set of 6. So pressing the rib cage, reaching up, and back down. 2, 3, 4, 5, last one, and 6. Very nice. All right, quick 30-second break, and then we're going into our last set of these exercises. Super fast, super quick out, holy man. If you're liking these dead bugs, and if you're liking these loaded kettlebell reaches, try and challenge yourself and maybe double reps the next time you do them. So do sets of 12 instead of sets of 6, okay? Really challenge that core. So here we go, that's our 30 seconds, last set of core, and then you're free from me. So lowering one leg while we lower the weight up backwards. And back to that. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, extending those legs straight up and reaching for our toes for a set of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, last one, and 6. Woo! Alrighty. That is that. And we are done. That is the workout for today. So I hope that you learned a that maybe a couple of my cues will assist you further as you go forward in your training. If you have any questions, concerns, anything like that, feel free to comment in the comments below, and I'll hang around for a little bit and answer your questions. If you're here at CFB Edmonton, feel free to contact any of the PSP here if you're kind of not too sure where to start, back in the gym after, things have been shut down for a little bit. So I hope everybody stays happy and healthy, and we'll see you next time for our next live stream class.